A girl wants to live a luxurious life. For that she dates rich old mans. Hey guys, welcome back to the movie summary. Beginning of the movie, we see a man named John. He takes some dogs out. Those dogs belong to rich people. John takes the dogs for a walk for money. A lady is very happy to see her dog. Next we see a girl named Irene with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is very rich. Irene lives a luxurious life with rich boyfriends. John is working as a waiter and bartender in the same hotel as Irene. He goes to a rich man to give him beer. The man makes John sit with him. He offers to smoke a cigarette. But John doesn't take it. Then the man says that this is not an ordinary cigarette, it costs 120 euros. John takes the cigarette and smokes it as he has never smoked before. Later Irene goes to the bar to get a drink. There John is lying on the couch. Irene throws a small object at John to wake him up. So he wakes up. Soon he said, "I will never sleep like this. I fell asleep unexpectedly." Irene didn't know he was a bartender. She thinks he is a rich person. Then she calls John closer. She smells of cigarettes. She realizes that the cigarette John smoked was costly. Later they both have a drink. Intoxicated, they go to an expensive room in the hotel and makes private time together. When John wakes up in the morning, Irene is not there. He looks for her, but she is nowhere to be found. John waits for her for a year. One day he sees Irene again with her new boyfriend. He is surprised to see her. Then he pretends from a waiter to a rich person. A man there tells John to bring the food. But John ignores him. Irene also sees John. John hears boss's voice. Then he leaves from there. He stares at Irene intently. Irene's boyfriend gives her a ring and proposes for marriage. As the man is rich, Irene agrees to marry him. John is surprised to see all this. Night Irene comes to John. John asks her, "Where is your boyfriend?" She says her boyfriend is sleeping. Later they both become intimate again. In the morning Irene wakes up early and goes to her boyfriend's room. Then her boyfriend asks, "Where were you last night?" Irene says, "I went near the beach." Then he says, "I did not sleep the whole night. And I saw you in a bar with another person." He knows where Irene went yesterday. So he gets angry with her. Seeing him like that, Irene leaves her boyfriend and comes to John. She still doesn't know that John is not rich. Again the two become close. Meanwhile, the hotel staff takes the customers and comes to the room. Seeing them, John hides in the bedsheet. Then the hotel staff asks if you have a booking. Then Irene removes the bedsheet from John. Then she realizes that John is not rich. She leaves him and goes away. Irene needs a boyfriend now. She sits in one place and calls everyone. But no one will respond properly. After many calls a guy says okay to spend time with Irene. She waits for him in a restaurant. Meanwhile John comes there and apologizes to her. Then Irene says, "Okay, you go from here." John wants to talk to her. Then she says, "I have a date today." John asks if you will come to dinner with me tomorrow. Irene says, "I can't come." But John tries hard to convince her. Irene somehow sends John out of there. After a while Irene's new boyfriend arrives. Later they both have dinner. John looks at them the same way. The man gets scared of John and leaves from there. Now Irene gets even more angry with John. John says let's go to dinner with her. Irene can't help it and says okay. Later they both go to have dinner. There she orders high-priced food. John spends all his savings on that food. Later she tells, book a room in a hotel where she meets him regularly. He says okay to that. Next day they both go for coffee. He withdraws some more money. She likes a dress in the shop. She buys that dress. After their date is over, Irene tells you have to do your work and leaves. John gives her the remaining €1 and says stay with me for 10 seconds. Irene leaves after 10 seconds. Later he goes for a job in the hotel where he worked earlier. He cannot find a job. Just then a rich lady comes there and takes him with her. The lady's name is Madeline. She says you stay with me. I will give you whatever you want. Night he sleeps with her. But he can't sleep so he leaves the room. Outside he sees Irene with another man. Then again he goes to Madeline. In the morning John and Madeline go to have breakfast. Irene also comes there to have breakfast with her boyfriend. She goes to John and asks why are you following me? He tells I didn't come here alone. I came with a lady. She doesn't believe his words. Just then Madeline comes there. Then they both leave from there. John is sleeping in the room. Then Madeline approaches him and sees what color dress suits him. She thinks blue color suits him. Later they go shopping to buy clothes for John. Madeline tells him to go into the changing room. The changing room has all blue color clothes. John is surprised to see this. Irene is also in the changing room next door. Then they both look at each other. Irene asks him to help fix her dress. John also says okay to that. Later, Madeline takes John and leaves. John is now enjoying a life of luxury. Irene appears while he is outside on the balcony. Then she calls him. She gives him a gift. It includes dumbbells. Madeline didn't buy John anything but clothes. They both keep talking. That's how John and Irene close. Now Irene has feelings for John. Then John gets a call. Before he leaves, Irene breaks John's watch. After he leaves the room. In the morning, Madeline wakes him up and takes him to a surgeon. John has a right ear problem. Doctor fixes it. Even though he doesn't want to do this, but he does it for her. Later, as they are driving, Madeline notices his broken watch. Later, she takes him to a watch shop and buys an expensive watch. Its price is 30,000 euros. Then he will understand why Irene broke his watch. Next, he goes to the hotel. Irene is there with her boyfriend. John asks Irene's boyfriend for a lighter to show her the watch. Then Irene is shocked to see that watch. The watch also has diamonds. After that, John leaves from her. While John and Madeline are talking, Irene walks into the room with her boyfriend. Later, John gets annoyed by calling Irene's boyfriend like a room service person. John doesn't like Irene being with someone else. Irene laughs to herself knowing this. After a while, he approaches Madeline. Then she asks, "Where did you go?" John says, "I went to the washroom." She tells him, "You are talking to someone." John says there is no such thing. Madeline gets suspicious of him. Also, she says, "You shouldn't be talking to other girls as long as you are with me. If you want other girls, then all the luxury life you have now will go with me." Then John puts the watch she gave him as a gift and leaves. John doesn't want to be in her control. In the next scene, John is seen wearing very expensive clothes, a bike and a watch. He then goes to meet Irene. She will be very surprised to see him. Madeline gives all this to John as a gift. Because he shouldn't not leave her. There, John and Irene decide to go out. But already Madeline comes there. So they plan to go out for the night. At night, John waits for Irene. Irene waits for her boyfriend to sleep. But he kept asking Irene questions like, "Where do you live? What did you do earlier? Where is your family?" Irene doesn't want to talk to him, so she kisses him and puts him to sleep. Later, John and Irene go on a bike ride. They spend the whole night near the beach. Irene's alarm rings at 6:30 in the morning. John, on the other hand, is asleep. She looks at him lovingly. John wakes up. Later, they both go back to the hotel. John is with Madeline by the swimming pool. Irene also comes there. Madeline asks John to bring the book. John goes to the room to get the book. Irene also follows him. Says, "I really liked the time we spent last night. Now it's time for her to leave her boyfriend." John is very sad to know this. Later, they both kiss. Just then, Madeline comes there. Seeing her, they both hide. There, they both kiss and come to the balcony. Then Irene's boyfriend sees them both. Then Irene leaves. Madeline does not know what happened between the two. But Irene's boyfriend saw everything that happened between them. So he leaves her. Irene sits alone by the swimming pool. John walks up to her and asks what happened. She tells that my boyfriend left me and the hotel bill was not paid. John wants to help her. In the evening, John comes to Irene with a letter. In that letter, the entire bill for Irene is paid. John sells his watch to pay the hotel bill. Madeline asks John where is his watch. To that he says, "I sold it and got you a gift." Then she will be very happy. Irene sees her old boyfriend in the hotel and leaves. Because there was another girl with him. Her name is Agnes. John meets Irene. Later, they both dance together. Irene asks John for help. She says, "I saw my old boyfriend. A girl was also with him. I have to be with him if I want to have a good life. We should separate them both." John says okay to that. Later, Irene goes to Agnes and tells her that John is very rich. He is waiting for a girl's love. Hearing this, the girl gets attracted to John. Agnes comes there while Irene and John are talking. Later, they both keep talking. Just then, Madeline sees them both. She scolds him. To which John says, "I can't stay with you. If you want, I will return all the gifts you gave me." The lady says okay and gives the bike to John. Later, John meets Agnes. She asks John who that lady is. To which John says she is my mother-in-law. Then they both go into the hotel room right in front of Agnes' boyfriend. Later, Irene goes to her ex-boyfriend and seduces him. Irene feels jealous when she sees John and Agnes. Because she loves John. Immediately, she goes to John. Irene tells him about her feelings for John. Hearing all this, Agnes goes away. John also loves Irene. Later they both kiss. This is how this movie ends. 99% people watch my videos without subscribing. I am working hard to make these videos. My humble request to subscribe my channel to